I go, I don't like writing and English and all of that. And he's like, I know, but look at the change you were able to give me. And I know you can do it for others. And so I took 3 months off and I just wrote. And in 24 hours, I had a bestseller. And since then, I've written a second bestseller because I'm on a mission to help 1 million families get into college and graduate without debt.
Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I'm your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Well, hey, friends, and welcome back to the show. We have an amazing Turquoise Talk guest today talking about a topic that I know is top of mind for you, for your kiddos. So today we have Shellee Howard, who is the founder and CEO of College Ready and See Our Future Now, a certified independent college strategist and a best-selling author on the show. She is a member of HECA and SOFA, and she helps students gain admission to their best fit colleges, keywords there, and oftentimes debt-free. Like some of the things that she shared on this podcast are amazing. So I'm so excited for me because I have a senior or a son who's getting ready to be a senior, getting ready to go through that whole process again. And I cannot wait to spend some time with her. And I know you are going to enjoy that here on the show too. She is a mother of four, and she has had firsthand experience with college success. Her son graduated debt-free from Harvard, earned his MD from UCSD, and is now an orthopedic surgery resident at UCLA. And her daughter earned her BSN debt-free and became an RN in 2021. So she is a sought-after speaker and consultant. She has guided hundreds of students worldwide to top universities, ensuring they graduate debt-free and land jobs they love. She, by far, is someone that has explained the process the most thorough, has given the most information here on the podcast. So I'm so excited for you to hear from her. We're actually going to split this episode into 2 episodes because it's about an hour long, and I don't want you to miss any of it. I don't want you to lose steam halfway through the episode and not hear everything that she has to say. So we're going to split this into 2 parts, but this is part 1. And she has an amazing gift that she offers at the end of part 2. So make sure that you listen to both episodes. All right, friends, let's do this. Well, welcome back, friends, to the show. We have an amazing Turquoise Talk guest to talk about a topic that I know is on many of your hearts. So thank you so much, Shellee, for coming on the show to talk with us today.
I am so looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
I am just so excited. So tell us just a little bit about you, your family, and how you got into the work that you're doing today.
So, like most things in my life, college ready really happened to me versus me seeking it. And it really happened when my son was in middle school. He came home one day after school, right around spring. I'll never forget. He comes in the kitchen because he's usually hungry. And he says, Mom, I know exactly what I want to do when I grow up and exactly the college I want to attend. Can you help me? And my eyes got really big, and I'm like, well, you realize that I changed my major 5 times and that I really didn't have a lot of direction. I go, but of course I can. You're my child. I've got your back. And he goes to walk away, and I go, well, what is it that you want to do? And he says, well, I want to be a brain surgeon. I want to go to an Ivy League school. And now
Wow.
I'm like ready to choke, but I'm trying to be like the cool parent going,
Right.
wow, that's amazing. And I said, where's this coming from? And he goes, I want to make an impact. I want to make
Mhm.
life better for people who maybe not are not having the best life. And I think an Ivy League education is going to set me up for that. And I was like, wow, where is he getting this amazing stuff? And
Yeah.
I realized it all came from, I started in about fifth grade having the conversation about college and what it could offer and how it's different from high school. And just very casually, we would tour colleges when we would go on family vacations. Like it was just part of like visiting an art museum. We went to a college and I wasn't a consultant at this time. I was dabbling in how do I help my kids get through this without getting into massive debt? That's where I started.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, long story short, I went back to school. I got my master's degree. Then I became a certified independent college consultant, started touring 25 colleges a semester. My son did exactly what I recommended, which I have to stop there and pause because I have three others that did not.
Yeah, because that could be a whole nother episode, right? How did you get the one to do everything you said?
Yes, and willingly, like, okay,
Right.
like not an issue. That could be a whole episode. And I was sitting at his high school graduation, and of course, proud parent, right?
Yeah.
And until he got up on stage, he was a senior class president and he was a salutatorian. And he was the first in his class to be offered an Ivy League opportunity. And as he was presenting, a young man next to me says, "Dude, I didn't even know that kid was smart." And
Mm.
first I'm like, who is he calling dude? I'm obviously an adult. But he didn't get that that was my son. And he was just kind of like, he's a normal kid. What is happening here?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of what I try to help families understand is he's a blonde hair, blue-eyed, 5'9", or he might say 6 foot young man, and really just had vision. He had
Mm.
a runway to really explore what that looked like. And so he had seven full ride offers, ended up going to Harvard 4 years for free, pre-med, went on to UC
Wow.
San Diego Medical School, only incurred 30,000 total in debt, and he's now chief resident at UCLA with 30,000 total debt. And he has the life set in front of him that really has no barriers. And so I'm on a mission because when he crossed that stage at Harvard, he reminded me of a bet we made. And I'm like, I don't remember that bet. And he said, yeah, Mom, you said that if I got through Harvard without debt, I didn't get married, and I got good grades, that you would write a book helping other people do what we just did.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? I said,
You're like, I don't remember that.
I don't like writing and English and all of that. And he's like, I know, but look at the change you were able to give me.
Mm.
And I know you can do it for others. And so I took 3 months off and I just wrote. And in 24 hours, I had a bestseller. And since then, I've written a second bestseller because I'm on a mission to help 1 million families get into college and graduate without debt.
That's amazing. Amazing. There's so much about that story that I love. First, I just love when our kids encourage us with our dreams too. Like that they're sometimes it feels like as a the people the women that are listening are mom entrepreneurs, and a lot of times it's like, is anybody listening? Is anybody paying attention to my dreams? It's all about us serving and giving to others. And, every so often we get these glimpses of encouragement from our kids too, where they're like, they notice and they remember, and then they actually vocalize it like your son did with you. And I just think that's a really powerful part of your story. And that like it wasn't lost on him, the impact for
Mhm.
him. And also for him to be able to like really think, okay, mom can really help so many other people with this. And you and I were talking about this before we started recording, just our past struggles become our present purposes. And that's what's happened with you. And that's really entrepreneurship. I feel like for a lot of people that I interview, they're like, I just kind of happened to get into entrepreneurship. I wasn't seeking it, but I had a problem. I figured it out. And now I want to help some other people with that. And I just think that's such a beautiful, it's just a beautiful mission. And you're very specific about it too. So I love that. with what you're doing. So tell us a little bit, like, I was telling you before we started recording, so I've already had one that we went through this whole process, and he actually decided not to continue with college. So he went for a year and he was kind of on the fence, not really wanting to go in the beginning. And I just said, buddy, just you have to go to know. Like, just go for a year. So now you'll know if you love it, don't love it, all the things about it. But right now, you just don't have the data or the information to know, right? And we're a faith-filled family. And so he prayed about it and then he went and he, did the things. He was rooming with his best friend. So it wasn't a roommate situation. He's just has never really enjoyed classroom learning. He's hands-on in work, loves that kind of learning, like getting into that. So we went through the whole process, got in, went to the school that he wanted to go to, and then just decided it wasn't for him. And I know that you like to talk about this too. So for the mom who's listening, can we just start there? If she has, a child who's on that fence or just trying to decide, and there's so much pressure from society to go. And
Mhm.
I do think some kids go and because of the pressure, and it may not just be for them. And so they just feel like, well, I got to go because my parents went. In my generation, it was like, that's just what you did. Entrepreneurship wasn't what it is today. So it's like, if you wanted to get a job, you went to college. And it's just not that way anymore. Do you agree? And what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so originally when I started College Ready, I was going to call it Future Ready. But
Mm,
nobody was getting what I was trying to help them understand is how do we prepare our child today for what is going to be their future? And
yeah.
college is part of it for some people, but not for all people. Now, I am an entrepreneur. I've started 7 businesses, so I am a serial entrepreneur. And I started my first business at 12, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. Both my parents were entrepreneurs,
hmm
self-made, and I loved their lifestyle. I love that they could impact their income. I love that they could live the way they wanted to live. And I was darned if I wanted that as well.
Yeah.
And I remember coming home to my parents and I sat them down because they didn't know anything about college. They didn't go. And I sat them both down and I said, so I am now going into my senior year, and I think we need to talk about what's next. And I remember a counselor came into like my English class and said, hey, these things called colleges are coming in their applications, and you need to think about this. And nobody had ever talked to me about it. I was just going through school because that's what I had to do.
Right.
Very long story short, my father said, I think it would be wise, as you did to your son, I think you should try it. That way you have no regret that you didn't at least give it your best shot.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have done that.
Mhm.
Even though I love my life and I'm happy with the turnout, things are much different now than they were for my generation.
Right.
My mom said, absolutely not. Go get a job like I did at 18 and work your way through it. And I was like, great. Now I'm totally conflicted again.
Right. Yeah.
And then my dad says something really, really wise, and I'll never forget this. He said, you can go to college and you can learn how to do laundry, how to make friends, how to network, how to
Mhm.
live on your own, how to deal with tough times on your own. Like college is not just books.
No, for sure. For
It's about
sure.
creating opportunity and memories. And as soon as he started putting it into terms that I could relate to, I
Yeah.
said, yeah, of course. Yes, I want to try that. And then he said, but I want you to promise me you will go all 4 years. You
Mm.
won't give up on yourself. You will do what you set out to do. And then in the end, I want you to go work for corporate America. And I'm like, what? That's the opposite of what I want to do.
Right.
Said, because when you get the Fortune 500 training and you mess up on their dime, you are going to be the best entrepreneur you could ever be. And
Yeah.
I was like, that made a ton of sense to me. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what I did. 4 days after college, I graduated, started with Procter and Gamble.
hmm
I'm the corporate ladder, spent 8.5 years getting fully vested. best training of my life. And then I started my first business, and every one of them have been
Yeah.
just top notch because I went in eyes wide open, understanding that it's a business, not just a thing I have an idea for.
Right, right. Yeah. And I do think so both of my boys now, so my oldest is 20 and my youngest is 17. And both of them already, I mean, entrepreneurship is in their blood. I'm an entrepreneur, my husband's an entrepreneur, my father was an entrepreneur, my grandfather was an entrepreneur, my other grandfather was an entrepreneur. So it's in their blood, right? And I love that. But I do think they have this view of what entrepreneurship is, and then there's reality, right? So I've been trying to like gently remind them, but they're already like Lucas, my oldest, has his own business, and he's going literally going door to door,
Oh.
knocking on doors and selling window washing. I'm so proud of him because that takes skill and that takes grit and that's a last. Son, if you don't ever do that again, you're learning so much valuable things in that season. And then my youngest is has a detailing business for cars. And so I love that they're just getting into that, right?
Hmm.
So I do think it's important for the moms who are listening who have kids in those seasons. And I love that you said you started the conversation early with your kids too, and just to be talking, because that wasn't your experience. It was kind of like, all right, we're getting down to the wire. Someone talk to me about what my future holds. Just to know there's not one right way. I think that's such a pressure that we put on ourselves as moms to get it right. And
Mm.
also for our kids. Like I remember reading a post, you probably saw this years ago, but just about how the question we ask seniors. So where are you
Mhm.
going to college? And for the one who doesn't, that's not their route and that's not the way they want to go, like they don't know how to answer that, right? And
Mm-mm.
it's just this unnecessary pressure that's being put on the student at the time. And it's a question we ask. It's not like we're trying to put the pressure. It's just we're curious about what their next step is. But to them, it's like, I don't know. I'm 19. I'm not supposed to know what I want to do for the rest of my life right now. And I think that's just an unnecessary pressure. I'm sure you see it with the people, the students that you work with and the parents that you work with. It's just this overwhelming pressure.
So the very first thing we do when we start working with a family is we get to know the child.
Hmm.
I know it says college ready, but we're really student focused and parent listening. And
Okay.
so we hear from the parent's perspective, but we also want to hear what the best friend says about the student. We
Hmm.
want to hear what the sibling says about the student because there's hidden gifts in there and
Hmm.
there's things that we need to understand. Then we put them through what's called See Our Future Now. And it's for any child who just doesn't know. And that's
Hmm.
okay not to know. And I tell every child that goes through my program, we start in middle school.
Hmm.
And when they're in middle school, I promise you, most of them don't know.
Yeah.
And the first thing we do is we're navigating with them on what are your gifts, your talents, your core values? What do you advocate for? What's that thing that just burns inside of you that you want to impact the world?
Hmm.
And then we help them to see here are three careers that are a perfect match for all of your skills. And do they need to go to college? Do they need 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years? Like,
Right.
we want you to know that if you go this path, this is what it looks like.
Hmm.
Then we can tell them how much money they'll be making right after school and 5 years later. Then we can tell them, will a robot be doing that job by the time you graduate? And
Yeah.
this is the first time we've really had to be very specific with students that
Hmm.
if they're going into graphic design, that they may come out with programming skills versus sketching and drawing or doing some of the skills that they're used to
Yeah.
loving. And so when a student has something to say, so when an adult says, so where are you going to go to college or what are you doing after high school? And they can say, well, I'm considering this and I'm considering this and I'm really leaning towards this. And this is how I'm going to get there. Now, all of a sudden, that they stand up tall,
Yeah.
they
Hmm.
smile, they lean in, they feel worthy of that conversation. And
Yeah.
regardless of where they go, I have some students in my program who go on to like I have underwater welder. in
Yeah.
my program. And he
Wow.
still needed to figure out what that plan was. And because I am an entrepreneur, I do work with a lot of entrepreneurs because I get how they think.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
think way differently.
We're a different breed, I tell you.
And so a lot of entrepreneurs will send their children to me to help give them direction or start a business.
Hmm.
Because my favorite one right now is when I get on a call and I'm like, so tell me about yourself. And they're like, well, I just want to let you know I'm not going to college. I'm going to be an influencer.
Sorry to laugh, but it's so true.
And I don't bat an eye. I
I
don't
bet you don't. I don't know how you keep a poker face because I would laugh just like.
totally. And I embrace that. And I'm like, so tell me about that.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
me what about that gets you excited? How many followers do you currently have? And here's the kicker. And can I see your business plan?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're like, what?
And
What do you
I just,
mean?
yeah, I can't just post and like pray that, I'm going to turn into this amazing influencer. Yeah, yeah.
So as you can see, every child is different. And I think that's why I was blessed with four, two boys, two girls. My
Mhm.
first went to Harvard, and he's a doctor. My second, she 4 years later is a pediatric registered nurse. And both of them, I believe, went that direction because I love serving my community. That's just,
Mhm.
I'm needle phobic, but I love community service. And then my third wanted to go into broadcasting, totally out of the box, different plan. And now he's going to paramedic school
Okay.
because he refused to listen to a little wisdom. And that's okay. He went a different path. And then my fourth is studying at AAU in the Czech Republic of Prague, getting a dual US and international degree because she wants to be an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And I said, then go where you want to get your degree, see the world,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
back and start your business. I go, nobody's ever asked me where my degrees are from.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Totally different path.
Yeah, yeah. That's so cool. That's so cool. So, what are some of the common mistakes that families make? Like, let's shift gears a little bit. There was so much value in what you just said. I know the listeners are going to love that. But, like, they've decided they want to go and, like, going through the whole process of admissions. What are some of the common mistakes that you see parents or students make in that process? Hey, friend, let's talk. It's time to book your clarity call. We are going to spend 1 full hour focused on you. A clarity call isn't about pressure. It's about possibilities. It's about you. You having a space to talk through what's on your heart and mind, you walking away with a clear vision and practical next steps, and you feeling confident in what's next and how to get there. You don't need to have it all figured out. That's my job. All you need to do is show up and we'll figure it out together. This is the best hour you can invest in yourself right now. Not in 6 months from now, not next month, right now. And don't just take my word for it. Here's what one of my coaching clients had to say after working together.
I honestly cannot say enough positive things about coaching with Martine. From the very first session, I knew this was something different. The deep dive into who I am and why I operate the way I do per the ProScan results has helped me immensely and allowed me to embrace my unique qualities on various levels. I would 1000% recommend hiring her for whatever level of transformation you're looking for.
That transformation, it starts with one conversation. It's time to stop spinning your wheels and start making real progress. So head right now to martinewilliams.com or in the show notes and grab your private clarity call spot on my calendar before they're gone. And since I personally monitor my inbox, if you don't see a time slot that fits your calendar, just send me an email at martinewilliams.com with free times that do work, and I will make it work for you. All right, friend, let's get back to the show.
So the number one for sure is parents think they did it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I could do it on my own. I surely can help my child. It wasn't that hard. I applied to two schools, put it in the mail, put a stamp on it, done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's so incredibly different. And the on-ramp to get there is so much longer and filled with opportunities, that starting too late is the number one reason why students don't get accepted to their dream school and don't get scholarships. They may go to college. I tell every student there is a college for you. I
Yeah.
mean, really, if you, as
Yeah.
long as you have money and you're breathing, I can find one. Like
Right.
it really
Yeah.
isn't that terrible. But if you want your dream school in your location and you want big scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
now you have to sell how amazing you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the challenge. So you can't do that because colleges ask you, how many years did you do it? How many hours per week? How many weeks per year? And did you lead it? So if
Mm-hmm.
you have nothing, 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 and all of a sudden you throw everything in the senior year,
Mm-hmm.
it's quite apparent that that's not really what you want to be doing, but you don't know what else to do. So
Yeah.
start early, parents. I have families who call me when they're picking elementary school, middle school, high school. It's just knowledge is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is they try to force their child into a major that they think they would be good at. In other
Yeah.
words, I hear this all the time. I think my child should be an engineer. And I ask, well, why? Well, they played with Legos a lot when they were little.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they see this direct correlation. And
Right.
the child is looking at him like, where are you coming from? I have no idea where that came from, and so it's really helping parents understand that their teenager right now is trying to become their own person. And so even a parent who is so amazing and has this all figured out needs a child who is willing to listen to that parent and do
Yeah.
what that parent says. And that's why I started out with saying that firstborn did that.
The
And
born is the most obedient, right? That's what they say anyway.
I think so. Pleasers, maybe. I'm not so
Yeah.
sure what that technical term is, but
Yeah.
that's what's important. So the other thing is they assume they make too much money to get scholarships. That's the second most wrong thing a parent can think, right? Majority of my clients are in the tier they make too much money to get need-based and they don't make enough money to write a check and smile on their face.
Right. Yeah.
So they're frustrated and they throw up their hands and they just take a loan. And
Mm.
it's so discouraging for me because if all four of my kids got into great colleges and out without debt, and they're all very different, and I've helped thousands of students since just this year, we had 29 seniors get 8.2 million in scholarships.
Wow.
So the money is there. It's just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, people hear the social media buzz that nobody gets in and it's super expensive. And I want your listeners to know there is a ton of money. Harvard has $5.3 billion in endowment. They just released that if your child gets accepted and your family makes under 200,000, they will go full ride. So
Wow.
again, there's all of these things that people just don't realize.
Yeah.
There's 10 colleges that are tuition free.
Yeah.
So it's just knowledge. And unfortunately, you know what happens when you Google something?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it is. It is. And like I'm sitting here thinking about how, as an entrepreneur, like one of my, I don't know if it's a core value, but just something that I know I've had for 18 years is support in the
Mm,
way of a coach or a group coaching program or in a mastermind or something. And it's no longer something that I think about investing in. It's part of my business plan
sure.
because I know that I can't see my own blind spots. I was just thinking about how could we create that same mindset around because most people don't want to spend the time either doing the research. I know I don't like, and I get super overwhelmed. And when you said frustration, like that is the emotion that I feel. And I
Yeah.
already feel it kind of trying to bubble up again with my youngest because FAFSA and all of the scholarship stuff. And, we didn't, because I didn't know what I was doing. We
Mm,
didn't get anything really for Lucas for that first year. And it's not something, it's not my wheelhouse, it's not my strength. And so, how can we create this culture of that's just what we do as parents? We
Mhm.
invest in the person like Shellee, who has done the research, has the receipts, has the results of what you've been able to do, and like put that in our family plan as
Mhm.
early as possible. Like, I think about all the money that was spent over the years when my kids were little with toys and like, could we have put some of that money from the grandparents into knowing, okay, at some point I'm going to be investing in a college ready program
Mhm.
where I have someone that's going to be able to help me and help my child who's way more informed, way more, and they're probably going to listen to you way
Right?
more than they're going to listen to me. So I love this idea. Like, how can we, I'm sure you think about this all the time, but how can we just create that environment of this is just what we do as parents? This is an investment that we're putting into our budget
Right.
as we, decide we're going to have kids.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I partner a lot with financial advisors because they don't know how to do what I do, but it's college is sometimes the biggest or second largest financial burden on a family. And
Mhm.
so they'll send people to me going, what you invest with Shellee, you get double back in scholarships. That's an investment of resources, time, and energy and
Mhm.
not having to worry about all of it and not fighting with your child about have you done your applications, your essays, da 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 da. And
Yeah,
so for me, you hire a financial advisor, you hire a CPA, you hire a realtor, you even hire a private coach for hockey lessons that are insanely
yeah,
expensive.
you're so right. You're so right. Yeah, yeah,
And then you think about, well, wait a minute, I'm doing all this to get my child somewhere, but at the very end where it's most important, you're like, oh no, I'm going to do this on my own. Or worse, I'm going to have my 17-year-old figure this out on their own, right? That is the
yeah,
scariest idea ever.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true. I love that. How about schools? Like, do you connect with other schools? I was just thinking some of our local schools. Do you connect? Do you have collaborations with schools to help? Yep.
I do not as often as I would like. The situation is high schools have counselors.
True. Yeah.
So job security would say, if we're bringing in Shellee, then
Yeah.
what are you doing? But what people don't realize is they're dealing with truancy. They're dealing with children who have mental illness. They're dealing with the overwhelm, the frustration, the anger. The child who is doing well, they're not going to get any attention because they're doing well.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't have any incentive to, one, get your child in the best fit college, or two, how you're going to pay for it. They have no idea how much your family can afford.
Right.
And there's the disconnect.
Mhm.
Families believe that this person is helping them, but I've had four kids, and I honestly can tell you they all went to different schools, and not one of them received that kind of support.
Yeah.
On the financial side, no high school understands the FAFSA, the CSS profile, the student aid index. 90% of families who complete some of these forms do them completely wrong. They
Mhm.
brag on the FAFSA, well, I own this and that and that. No, it's you're not applying for a home loan. You're applying to say, I need more help. I need more
Right.
money.
Yeah.
And so it's really knowing, I call it the rules of the game, and I explain it to students like this. If I sent you on a tennis court and I handed you a racket and a ball and I said, go win, you would look at me like I'm nuts.
Right.
But we do that with college planning. We assume that they're
Mhm.
fully ready and they're
Yeah.
looking at us going, if I knew how to do it, I promise you I would do it.
Right. Right.
And the procrastinators, they don't want to do it because they don't know how to do it.
Mhm.
And they don't want to admit they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just don't do it. And then you get frustrated at them, and then it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of being something that could be learning, fulfilling, and exciting, it just turns into a big stress ball of frustration
Absolutely.
for both sides. I know there was things that I said and did with my first that were very frustrating for him and for me because he is a procrastinator. I mean, he does put things off, and I'm over here going, there's times for different things. And so I know the question that is probably when they see the title of this episode, the primary question they're going to have is, how do we get the money?
Sure.
Like, what is that process? the scholarships, the financial aid. Again, it's just so much, Shellee, and it's just really hard to wrap your brain around what's the first step, the second step, and then like what's the best route to go to get that. If we don't qualify, which sounds like there's just more we need to learn about that because that's not necessarily true, but give us I know there's probably a lot to process with that, but how do you send your student to college without going into debt? Like, what are those ways that they can simplify that process and get more money? Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.